This week we have a very awesome show. We're going to talk about the 5 areas impacting the future of HR, as well as end of year employee appreciation ideas. Super important that we nail this, especially in light of the year that we've had and the potential for the next 2 years to be a little bit uncomfortable. We'll talk about that in a minute. But hey, if you like this show, go ahead and leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get this show. And if this is your first time, go ahead and hit that follow button, the subscribe button, so that we are able to keep in touch and you can check out more episodes of the show as we crank them out every week. This segment of While We Were Working is going to be all about 5 areas impacting the future of HR. Now, this is a special While We Were Working segment because for the very first time, we'll be talking about an article that I've written in Forbes. That's right. I've been a member of the Forbes Human Resources Council since somewhere towards the start of 2022, but I wanted to ease myself in, and we've had some other fun things going on. But now I finally had an opportunity to write and publish my very first article in the program. So, um, we're going to drop a link in the show notes for you to learn more about these 5 areas. But while we're talking about this article, I don't want to give it all away because I want you to read it. But I do want to hone in on one specific area that's been getting a lot of discussion here within Jumpstart, as well as the economy at large. Um, the I wanted to talk about inflation's influence on retention. That's right. In the episode, we're going to talk about the inflation's influence on retention. So this was number 2 on the list of topics that I wanted to cover. Um, in the article, I said, while still weathering the storm of a 3-year health pandemic, come on, somebody, can anybody relate to that? One would think that HR gets to stop and take a breather. Unfortunately, HR and our employees may need to brace themselves for pain in a few areas. Now, I'll just put a pause right there. And, have you heard anything or been following the news about the economy and if we're in a recession? And Chairman Jerome Powell discussing rates and basis points increases. So much of it is outside of my wheelhouse, and I'm sure there are really awesome podcasts that you can check out that will cover current events and economics and finance. But I wanted to drill down on this topic because it needs your attention. Uh, Long story short, it's going to get even more expensive to live. That's not hyperbole. That's what happens when the Fed decides to raise interest rates for the purpose of driving costs down. Or not necessarily driving costs down, but driving inflation down. So before the COVID-19 pandemic, I believe inflation was somewhere around 2%. And right now, as of this recording, we are somewhere around 8.3%. Now, I know you may be thinking, hey, Joey, the difference from 2 to 8 doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But have you seen the cost of gas lately? Have you seen the cost of airline travel? Have you seen the cost of buying a car? Have you checked the interest rates on your credit cards and seen them go up several percentage points as the Fed has continued to raise rates? Um, if you haven't been paying attention to that, you need to because your employees are going to be paying attention to it and they're going to be feeling it. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to uh, be aware of what's happening in the conversations about our economy and how that might trickle into your business. Now, internally, from an HR standpoint, right, we may be looking at how the inflation may change cost of living. And then as a result of that, we may be looking at where do we position salaries, bonuses, raises, compensation as a whole, because we want to make sure that if we want to keep our employees, right, retention is our goal. We may have to make some adjustments midstream in order to keep our best and brightest employees. Um, so I'm not going to go into a whole economics lesson, but I'll just give you an example. Okay, so let's say you have a senior level professional who started with you as a high potential, high performer, and you have them at a fair salary, but they are aware that it's getting more expensive to live, and so their bottom line and their financial picture is starting to get a little bit more uncomfortable. Um, what do? Right? Do you consider letting them walk and go find another job? Or do you consider having conversations and being proactive about raising their pay? Or do you wait till they bring up the conversation about compensation and see if you can find somewhere to meet in the middle? Um, I'm not going to tell you what to do in your organization because every organization has a different set of values and beliefs and compensation strategy. But I will say that this whole concept of the Great Resignation is likely far from over, fortunately, because with such economic volatility, unless you are an employer of choice, unless you are a group that creates a strong, compelling employer brand, um, the employees who work for you and equate it, to a paycheck, may go out and find other places to work. Um, Another aspect of this that I talk about in the article, but I want to unpack a little bit more, is the impact of inflation and your employees' 401ks. Again, not a CPA. This is not financial advice. This is just, an HR guy who listens to stuff about the market and has done enough of the research to help you make informed decisions. And what we may experience is as the Fed looks to combat inflation to bring it down, so might stock prices go down. And if stock prices go down, then our 401ks, our 403bs, our IRAs, those investment classes may start to go down as well. And that might lead someone to stay in the workforce a little bit longer because of the shock to their 401k portfolio value, or it may lead individuals who previously were retired to re-enter the workforce because they're not that thrilled about how the economy has played a role in their shrinking 401k value. I saw an article. This may have been on Money with Katie's Twitter feed, and Money with Katie's a friend of the pod. She's a friend of mine from influencer days long ago at Southwest Airlines. Um, but there's talk that this might even be a quote unquote flat decade as it relates to 401k values, which means that within the span of 10 years, the relative growth of your 401k portfolio might be flat or close to flat or relatively low compared to historic averages. So I think it's going to be an interesting season for HR and recruiters and executives who make really important decisions about the way we compensate people, the way that we retain people. Um, the way that we adjust our pricing to be responsive to markets and to ensure that our businesses stay in business through the duration. So it's going to be an interesting time, but I'd love to hear what you think about inflation's influence on retention. I just gave a little bit of my thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear yours. If you're watching this live, you can put it in the chat. If you're consuming this later on a podcast outlet or on YouTube, let us know in the comments or on social media. And yeah, let's keep having the conversation because the more we can have a shared understanding of the inflation's impact on retention, its impact on our ability to do business, it will help us all. And as a matter of fact, maybe we'll do a webinar or something with an economist and a CPA who can help us chart the course of navigating the workplace. If you like that idea, let us know and we'll make sure it happens.